Good morning, you guys. It's time to rise and thrive. I'm Trisha Turner. It's 9 a.m.-ish Central Time. Every week, we're coming to you live to bring you either something to do with faith, family, finances, or fitness. It's a story of inspiration, motivation to help you, number one, improve your life, enhance your life, because we all know, like, it's challenging out there. And every week, my goal is to bring to you somebody that's going to be like, put you in the mindset where you're thinking to yourself, oh my gosh, like I have a similar story to that. Like if he can do it, so can I. And so I'm super excited this morning to bring you James Mendoza, who's got a story that I've been told he's not shared publicly. So a lot of you out there that know him, you may not know this little bit that you're going to hear today. So super excited. I've talked to a couple of people, James, and I'm like, you better make sure and tune in because James is going to share something that you probably don't know about him. So welcome, James.
Hi, Trisha. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Super excited. I was a little nervous, but like just talking to you before the show, you kind of set the pace, and I'm really comfortable.
This is what we do. This is like real. So for James, everyone that doesn't know you or know kind of what you do, tell everybody where you are in the world, what you do for a living, and a little bit of your backstory.
Okay. So I'm currently in Houston. I'm originally from Chicago, born and raised. I've been living in Houston for the past 3 years. I've been in the real estate industry for 10 years. I started the real estate industry. I got licensed in 2015. So I started taking my courses and all that in 2014, started kind of dabbling in the real estate like investment side in 2014 before I actually got my license. I had met Eddie Garcia prior to that, and I started going into his office before I got licensed to kind of get a feel for the real estate industry. And I'm like, you know what? I think this is something I can do, and I'm just going to take the leap of faith and go ahead and get licensed. So I got my license in 2015, and I was working at Realty of Chicago until I transitioned over to Houston about 3 years ago. So I've been doing real estate here, working with the Mark Demas team, and it's been a great experience so far for sure.
All right, so you worked side by side Eddie Garcia for years. And
yeah.
For you guys that don't know Eddie Garcia, he is the founder, of course, of Realty of America, but it started with Realty of Chicago. Were you there like in the very beginning then?
Yeah, well, not necessarily the very beginning, but I was one of the very few agents when I first got into the industry. I think we were working out of like a 600 square foot office space, and I think there was maybe about like anywhere like 10 to 15 agents, working for Realty of Chicago at the time. I think I had just joined the company right after David Dominguez, who ended up being the CEO of Realty of Chicago years later. So yeah, I basically started on the early stages of Realty of Chicago, and I worked closely with Eddie Garcia and a lot of like the management team there, and watched him kind of grow that company from that 600 square foot space that we had to a headquarters that is the headquarters now, but that one's going to be left behind, and it's now onto a bigger and better headquarters just down the street. But we transitioned over to that one, and kind of single-handedly watched him acquire a brokerage and open up another office and open up another office. I think before I left Chicago, Realty of Chicago was up to 5 offices and about 500 agents. So I think I was like maybe the 12th agent to join. So from that all the way up to 5 offices and 500 agents was my experience with Realty of Chicago.
Quite impressive too. Yeah. And then in Chicago, then now you're here in Houston. What brought you here to Houston?
Life throws you curveballs, Trisha.
Indeed.
Life throws you curveballs, and I ended up in Houston. I took the leap of faith, and it was probably one of the best decisions I've made. Life has been great down here in Houston. And I think, you know what, I was at a point in my life where I kind of needed a different kind of lifestyle. I needed a transition that kind of positioned me here to where, like, man, this is where I belong. This is where I need to be.
And then Mark Demas, you ended up there, which again, you guys, for y'all that don't know, Mark is the president of Realty of America. So all of that, how did that happen?
Sure. So, I had a relationship with Mark Demas. I had a relationship with Michelle and the management team there. So we had met prior to that, probably about in 2016 through Eddie, and Eddie and Mark have a really great relationship. So it was an easy transition to kind of go from, producing in Chicago to come here, having that relationship with them and their team. So they took me in with open arms, treated me like family. And I've been with the team since, working closely with them and helping them build great things down here.
which is super cool. Prior to real estate, what were you doing?
So a little bit of my backstory, right?
Yeah.
I started working before I should have been working. I think you're supposed to be 16 when you get your first job. I had lied on that application. I said I was 16. I was 14 and a half, and I started working. I needed a job, right?
Yeah.
So, growing up, we didn't have a lot. It was my mom and three siblings, half brother, half sister, two half sisters, and a stepfather. They got a divorce early on, so then I kind of had to step up a little bit and kind of raise my brothers and sisters. But I needed a job, right? So I took on a job. I started working at a what was it? Oh, a tuxedo rental shop in the neighborhood. That was my first job. And with the tuxedo rental shop in my community, it was a big business because you have weddings, you have quinceañeras is what they were called. Yeah, quinceañeras. So, if you're on a budget, then it's easier just to get a rental, right? So
For sure.
I started working at that shop for about 2 years, and then it was great. That's kind of where I got the aesthetic where I had to always dress sharp. And
I love that.
I learned that early on, which is great.
Yeah.
You know what? It kind of instilled something in me to where like I want to wear a suit every day to work or something like that. I kind of wanted to always dress sharp after that. But the person that helped me work there, said that I'd probably do good at sales. He saw that I was always great with people, and he said I would excel well in sales. So from there, I transitioned to Circuit City. Now I'm showing my age. I don't know if y'all remember Circuit City.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Circuit City. So being young, I was into electronics, Circuit City, and sales. They all kind of lined up, right? So I worked at Circuit City. I was doing sales for the TV department, home theater department. So I was doing great at that. It was my first hourly job plus commission. And I'm like, man, commission's great. The more I work, the more I make.
Yeah.
So boom, now that kind of lined up with kind of building who I am and who I want to be and what I want to do for work. So I saw other people. Well, there was, I think, a Verizon store inside the Circuit City. So like a kiosk. And I saw them, started hanging out with them. And I saw them doing very well, like driving nice cars. And I'm like, okay, so now I'm starting to kind of divide. Mind you, I'm like 16, 17. And I'm starting to I like dressing sharp. I'm good with people. I found a niche in my sales. I'm interested in doing this. Now I got the commission aspect in me. So now I'm starting to just kind of build myself like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm comfortable with. And I'm getting attracted to success. I'm getting attracted to seeing, the guys at Verizon making a lot of money and driving nice cars. I'm like, man, if they can do it, I can do it, right? So
For sure.
I transitioned from Circuit City and I started working at AT&T. I worked at AT&T for a few years, and I've always been kind of competitive. I've always tried to be number one. I've always had that competitive nature in me. So that's one of the reasons I excelled in sales. So I kind of, got a feel for who was doing what and how they were doing it to see like, okay, this guy's number one. What is it that he's doing? And he was telling me, it's okay. I'm here every day. I'm here by the weekends. I get here early. I just greet, talk, find solutions and make it happen. So I started picking up on that. And then surely enough, I became number one in that location. I was able to get recognized like through our region. And then they ended up, a few years later, they let me open up 1 store, 2 stores. And I started kind of gravitating towards like excelling in that, so I did AT&T for a few years. And I was excelling. I was opening up stores, but then, I kind of felt like I was getting burnt out. So it's like, okay, now on to the next thing. Like, where else can I excel? And this was I think this was maybe 2007, 2008, 2009.
Okay.
From then on, I think it was like 2008 or 2009 when I left AT&T and I got hired by Fastenal. I got into the industrial supply industry. And the only reason I got into industrial supply was because I had a coworker of mine that said that I would do well in account management. Like, hey, if you want to get bigger, instead of just doing consumer sales, like how about you try doing it like on a commercial level? So then I got into account management. I was working at Fastenal in an account management position to where it was just kind of maintaining relationships with corporations and companies and warehouses and that kind of thing, maintaining those existing relationships to where, they had a spend, right? Think of it like a Home Depot, but instead of a consumer, they're buying in bulk products that they need to run their businesses, right? run their businesses. So I started doing that. I was excelling in that as well, to where I opened up one location, two locations. They gave me the region, and then the next position up required me to move to Minnesota. So I was like, okay.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So I ran a store, I ran a region, and now I was like, okay, if you want to run the Midwest, then you have to come work out of headquarters in Minnesota. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to Minnesota.
No.
Right?
No.
But they try to sell me on it. So they said, all right, just come out for the weekend, get a feel for the city, get a feel for the headquarters. So I went out. Trisha, it was negative 30 degrees.
Oh, no, thanks. No.
Negative 30 degrees that weekend. So I come back to Chicago. I'm like, okay, I'm burning myself out. I'm scaling. What else can I do? But prior to that, when I reached that point, I had met Eddie Garcia. I had met Eddie Garcia maybe 2 years before that, and I met him through his brother David Garcia. I was friends with his brother David, and I think he had, I would go to his Super Bowl parties and barbecues and all that stuff, and that's where I met Eddie, at a barbecue. And back then, he had brought up the idea of like, hey, real estate, you probably do well in real estate, and so on. So I'm like, I'm working in this company with Fastenal. I've got 401k, I've got benefits, I've got a great salary, bonuses. I'm like, man, to get into real estate was like, why am I going to risk it for commission?
Yeah.
Right? It's like, I already got it kind of set. But this was 2 years before I got to that point where I'm like, all right, now I need to find something else. So fast forward 2 years later, Eddie started his real estate company. He's doing really well. I reached out to him and I'm like, hey, how's it going with real estate? He's like, hey, the door's open. Come on down and check it out.
Yeah.
So I didn't fully just quit or commit, right? I started going to the office. I sat at someone's empty desk and kind of watched all the other agents, because back then, well, at least at that office, the agents showed up. There was agents sitting side by side. Everything was in person, right? In-person consultations, in-person signings. This is, it feels like it's prehistoric now that I think
right?
of it.
No one does now. Yeah.
This is before the digital era, before we were able to just DocuSign things and all that. So it was so old school, but I'm great that that's kind of what built my real estate career, because I was able to be surrounded by people that were doing great in the real estate industry. Eddie was there, David Dominguez was there, Tanya Diaz, a bunch of other people that were just doing great.
Yeah.
And I'm just picking up on it, I'm eating it all up. I'm like, man, this is amazing. Like, okay, screw it. I'm going to go ahead and get my license. I was working on getting my license while I was still working at Fastenal. And then fast forward, I got my license, I quit Fastenal, and I jumped into the real estate industry. And then I started working with Eddie and Realty of Chicago.
Which is just crazy, because here you were like starting working at a young age, scaling, growing, making more money, like climbing that ladder of success. You're in a great job. You have an income. You got everything figured out, you think, right? And then real estate. Like number one, thinks like that, because real estate's not easy.
No, not at all. So when they say you have to take the leap of faith and jumping into real estate, you really do. But it comes with guidance. Like there's no way you'll be able to survive. Well, some have, right? But it comes with a lot of guidance, a lot of self-educating and all that. So I was fortunate enough to be in that environment that I was in, to just kind of be able to hear people have their conversations and see people have those consultations. And I'm just picking up on everything. So I was blessed enough to do that. And it was just a different experience, and I was just soaking it all up,
When you joined Eddie Garcia's company, it was Realty of Chicago. Then I don't know, because I don't know how he ran the business model then. But was it all individual agents? Were there teams? Were you guys on your own? How did that work?
No. So the team concept in Chicago wasn't even that big. It's always more so. It's more so individual agents. And I think later on, there were agents that were doing really well to where they were starting to make their teams and build their teams. But essentially, no, the team concept was really non-existent. And just in Chicago in general, especially in our office, everyone was just an independent agent. So I think that's another thing too, that everyone had that independent mindset to where they knew what it took to succeed. Like they had the grit, they had to grind it out, and everyone did it on their own. And then we all kind of collaborated. One of the main things too that that I liked about the culture that I feel is more so now than ever was before was, the collaboration aspect was real. Like it existed. Like it was unbelievable. We'd go out to dinner and our dinners would just be talking about work,
Yeah.
masterminding.
Yeah.
That was it. We'd go out to dinner 3 times a week on top of, being at the office early in the morning. For early bird gets the worm because we had a lot of walk-in traffic. We were in a great location in Chicago. So we would race, we would try to beat each other to get there first. That's how it was competitive, but at the same time, that's why everyone was successful because everyone had that same mindset. So, early bird gets the worm, right? So if you get at the office early, you get walk-in traffic, boom, you get a lead. You work that lead, you got a deal independently, right? But outside of you just collaborating in the office, what are you doing after work? Or do you have any showings tonight? No, let's all go out to dinner. 3, 4, 5, 6 of us will just go out to dinner, break some bread, eat some steaks, and just talk about our wins, talk about our losses. Grateful for this, grateful for that. What are you doing that, how did you do 10 deals last month? How did you do 5 deals last month?
Yeah.
Just keep grinding it out. So it was definitely a different culture.
I think you even talking through what you just said, like there's so many people, especially even nowadays in the real estate world, the most common agents, they don't sell a lot of homes, number one, but they don't know what to do with their time. They don't show up in the office. They don't work a schedule. After work, a lot of times they're, either in the bar doing nothing, or nothing they should be doing, right? Or not doing anything work related or networking. This stuff was instilled in you from go. Like, was that just because everyone else was doing it? What made you be like, I'm going into the office every day. I'm going to do this. I'm going to work this schedule. Like, who instilled that in you?
Eddie.
Not surprising.
He would call and wake me up. Like,
seriously?
He would call and wake me up. He was like, hey, wake up. Hey, are you sleeping? Come on, man. You got to get to the office. You got to get to work. Yeah. It was him. He held you accountable. He held everyone accountable, and he gave you the tools, and he gave you everything you needed to make it work and succeed. And then ultimately, it's always up to you to put it all in play.
For sure. So when you would start your day, what time would you go to the office?
Well, at first I would get there like at 9, but I realized that 9 was already too late. So yeah. So, I think it got to the point where people started showing up to the office like at 6 a.m, 5 a.m.
Seriously.
Sometimes you felt like people were sleeping there. I was like, how did you beat me? Like, there's no way. But it ended up being that to where, 9 o'clock was kind of the norm, but getting there as early as 7, 6:30 was kind of getting there.
And Eddie, being the owner of the company, was he there with you guys in the mornings?
Oh yeah, he was there 24/7.
Oh yeah,
he lived there.
Right.
That guy was the first one there and the last one out.
You know what? And that's one of the coolest things that I admire about him is like his work is just, it's true grit, and he's committed. He's dedicated. Like, I'm going to be there. And I asked him that when we were in Chicago. I was like, you are working like around the clock. And he said, you know what? Because I committed to you guys that we're going to build the greatest real estate company in America, and you've trusted me to do it. So I'm committed. Like, I'm going to work 17 hours a day every day because that's what I do. So you're talking like this goes back to the beginning of time.
Oh yeah.
So you guys, and was there any like resentment and animosity? Like, man, this guy's a slave driver workhorse, or was it like we're excited?
No, yeah, we're excited. Everyone kind of had that same mindset, and that's another thing. And like, it came down to mindset. We all were thinking alike. We all wanted to succeed, and we're all able to help each other out. Like, there was no animosity, there was no aggressiveness and that competitive nature. Like, there was nothing like that. It was always just collaborating and having. Well, I think it helped too that we would go out to dinner, 3 times a week. Like,
yes.
And then, so all of that kind of helped out. The collaboration aspect, I'm telling you, was just second to none.
So being there in your whole duration in Chicago, did it continue like that? Did y'all's schedule stay like that? The collaboration?
Well, more so towards like my last few years, the agents that were there were just growing. Like, that's when the team aspect started coming into play.
Okay.
So David Dominguez, for example, he's one of the first agents that started his own team there. I think he did that early on because he came in with a corporate background.
Oh yeah.
So he came in just already, with structure in mind. And that's one of the things too that you really have to understand going into the real estate industry is like, you have to come in knowing that you're going to have to implement systems and structure your day, because if not, then you're just going to be running around like a headless chicken.
For sure.
you don't have a boss, right?
No.
So then who's going to hold you accountable? And especially if you're independent, it's tough to do that. But he came in with that mindset because of his background, and he was one of the first agents to produce at a high level, and one of the first agents to hire an assistant, and then hire a buyer's agent, and so on. So he was one of the first ones that built like a small team within the brokerage, and he's been excelling since. And then after that, a few years later, some of the other agents started growing their teams. A few other agents actually left the company and opened up their own brokerages because, we were all built to kind of excel and just kind of have that. So that's pretty much what it was coming down to for myself too. In my last 3 years, at the company, I was producing probably about just an average, like a 50 transaction year, 50 transactions a year. And then my last year, I got to the point where I felt like I was getting a little burnt out. 50 transactions a year, I was closing 1 week. And I was like, okay, I'm not hiring. And this, mind you, I wasn't doing this with a full-time assistant. I was doing this with a part-time assistant, then another agent. We were sharing like her salary. So and that's kind of how the first way we figured out, all right, let's start getting an assistant. We split an assistant and help us scale. But I was thinking, okay, I'm at 50 transactions year over year. I need more, or step away from production and try to help other agents grow and all that. And then that would kind of put me into more of a leadership role. Yeah. I was already thinking of kind of doing my own brokerage. So before I left Realty Chicago, I was thinking of doing my own brokerage.
Really?
So that's where I was at. I had already got my managing broker's license. I was looking for brick and mortars. I was almost pen on paper for a location. And then again, life throws you curveballs. I ended up in Houston.
Where were you going to open a brokerage? In Chicago?
In Chicago, yeah, in my neighborhood, in the Southwest side. So I was already pen on paper. I had found a location ready to go because that was it, and it was either that was the only way. I needed to scale. I was at the point where I was stagnant, and I was kind of burnt out in the bit. Yep. So I was like, okay. And then the brokerage idea came into play, but I had to put that on pause. So okay, life threw me a curveball. I ended up in Houston, so my mindset didn't change. I came into Houston. I was working with the Mark Demas team, but the idea was always kind of the same. Like, I'm going to work. I'm going to learn the market. I'm going to transact. I'm going to attract agents and hopefully open up my own brokerage here in Houston. Little did I know it takes 4 years to be licensed here in Houston for you to do that. I was thinking of doing it in 2.
Oh yeah.
Like, all right. So I've got to wait a little bit, and then drum roll. Realty of America came into the picture, and now I'm like, this is exactly where I needed to be. Full circle. I'm back where I started, and in a position to where like life just makes sense again.
So when you were in Chicago, Realty of Chicago, working side by side with Eddie, and that company's growing, you guys are doing great things. You come here to Houston, which is for some reason or another, you haven't shared yet, and then you still have this vision of opening your own brokerage. But then Realty of America, did you know that was being formed?
No, not exactly. Well, I knew before most.
Okay, I would think, yes.
Yeah, I knew before most, but I didn't know like the full picture. And that's what it was. So I was kind of on the fence, but I was still excited because I knew who was working behind the scenes to put it together. And I'm like, they're going to make something amazing. So I was just on the sidelines, kind of taking guesses on what's happening. And I kid you not, I took a guess at what was happening. Like, okay, they're doing something on a national scale. I knew that for a fact, right? But it had to be had to be kept down low. So we're just thinking, and I'm like, what's happening? I don't know, whatever it is, I'm in.
Yes. Because again, like Mark Demas here in Houston has been around forever, super successful, grown a massive business. And clearly Eddie did the same thing in Chicago. You shared like in a lot of that success and helped build that in Chicago. Now full circle. And here you are with both of them in essence in this new company, Realty of America. Like, did you have any in that, you guys, if for y'all that are paying attention, it just launched September 15th, 2024. So this isn't something that's been like open for a long time, and it's growing like crazy.
Like crazy. I think we just announced 400 plus agents here in Texas. 400 plus agents here in Texas.
Isn't that
And I
crazy?
think do you know when they launched here in Texas officially? Would it in December?
Well, it was somewhere like the San Diego thing was September 15th, and then Texas was quietly launching, but there wasn't like any huge launch. It's just been growing like crazy organically,
So
really, because we haven't had a
4
massive push.
months.
Yeah.
4 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're averaging 100 agents a month. Okay,
Organic,
where are we going to be
really.
at in a year? Do the math. Where are we going to be at in 5 years? If we're are you kidding me?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's all growing organically. You know, it's growing organically. It's going through the relationships. It's growing through like attraction. Like the agents that are joining the company are on a high level that they attract people that want to be successful. It's like, wow,
Yep.
they do it. And it's just an open arms environment. Like, come on in. We want you to be successful. Here's the roadmap. Now it's up to you to put it together.
So when you were thinking of like doing your own brokerage, because I've had that and it's not fun and it's not profitable, but a lot of people think that like, oh, I'm going to get my brokerage license. I'm going to open my own brokerage. Now you came from Realty of Chicago, which isn't a cloud-based brokerage. It's an independent brokerage. You thought you were going to open your own independent brokerage, but you're now with Realty of America, which is a cloud-based brokerage. Did you have like any concern with understanding that cloud-based brokerage model?
A little bit, yeah. But one of the main things that I asked, like, how do these cloud-based? They're like, well, you're not going to have a brick and mortar unless you want to, so that's going to be less overhead at the end of the day. So that's why I would say that if you want a brick and mortar, it's going to eat up a lot of your profits, and then having to run the office, you're going to spend more money running the office than you're spending it running your team. So it's like it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
Especially with the cloud-based brokerage now, where everything's virtual and this and that. So it's easy. But not only that, but I think, I'm not familiar with how the other companies, other cloud-based companies, what their models are in specific. But I know for a fact that I have not seen any brick and mortar reels or brick and mortar EXPs or hubs for that matter. And the reason I'm going in that direction is because we offer hubs, like brokerages that have joined the movement, joined Realty of Chicago, are now offering their office space, to all the agents in ROA, just offering their office space as a shared workspace to have client meetings, to have your team meetings or conference rooms or that kind of thing. So like these brokers have already been in business for 20 years. These buildings are already paid off. Now they're like, hey, what are we going to do with this brick and mortar? Like, hey, you know what? Let's just open it up because this is the company that we're in. The collaboration and the culture, well, open arms. Come on in.
And what's crazy about it is, like, for me, I went from all these big box companies to opening my own. And then I was at EXP for 5 years. And when I joined EXP, it was the first, of course, cloud-based brokerage. And the model was virtual. Like, you don't need an office space. People are working from home. And there was a lot of that. And then, of course, COVID hit and everybody's working from home. I had an office still, even when we were at EXP, because I had already had my independent brokerage. And I believe like you do more when you're in an office environment. And yes, people can work from home and I get it all day long, but studies show that most people are more productive when they're in a work environment. I think now fast forward, and then again, that was years ago when EXP launched and when we were there. Now, even the cloud-based brokerage models are seeing too that there's strength in numbers. These collaboration office spaces are doing amazing things because maybe agents don't go there every day, but they want to belong to something. Are you feeling that same thing as well?
100%.
Yep.
100%. Even now with the team and the office space that we have. Yeah. Granted, we host team meetings twice a week, and we're just getting. Now the agents are asking to be at the office more. Like, hey, can we host more at the office? Can we do this more at the office? And I'm like, yeah, for sure. I've been waiting to hear that. Like, so we want to be around.
Yes. Yes, it's like a complete opposite of where it's been, Yeah.
And especially as we grow, now it makes it easier for the younger people or the newer agents to kind of soak it all into, kind of the experience that I kind of came from. And I kind of want to build that again. I want agents to be at the office, working, talking, having their conversations, their consultations, and all the other agents getting inspired by what other agents are doing, getting motivated by what other agents are doing, and kind of learning all from one another's or each other's experiences. And that's the environment that we're going into with Realty of America.
You know what's crazy? Like, I'm a big believer in faith and everything happens for a reason. Had you not come to Houston, if had you stayed in Chicago and got your broker's license and opened an independent brokerage there, there's no telling like what path you would have went down, or how unhappy or happy you would have been. Mostly probably unhappy. Who knew that you moving to Houston was actually going to deter you from being able to open your own brokerage because of the 4-year thing? And now look, where it actually didn't deter you, like God closed that door because a greater one was opening for you.
I believe
Isn't
that
that
100%.
cool?
I believe that 100%. When I heard the announcement, when I heard everything becoming official, and I kind of got a feel for what was in the works, and I got a really good understanding of the functionality of the model and how it benefits someone with, at my level, with what I was thinking of doing with my career in the real estate industry. I'm like, it just lined up perfectly. Like, it just lined up.
When I was meeting with an independent broker yesterday, and he's been in business for 20 years. And the last 18 months especially has been really challenging in some markets where homes aren't selling and transactions aren't happening, and people are feeling it financially. And he expressed to me yesterday that after 20 years in business, he's like, I have to either make a change, like I got to do something different, like a new career, or I've got to figure out how to make this work. But what I'm doing is not sustainable. And I was reflecting on it this morning while I was thinking about our podcast. And I was like, this guy, 20 years as a broker and owning his own brokerage and all that, he's now thinking, because of the market and because of the industry, the cloud-based brokerage models are taking over. Like, he's thinking maybe he has to get a new career. That is not okay, And I told him, I was like, hold on, like, what if I can show you a way where you stay in real estate, just not as an independent broker, and you actually come with us, and you still are able to grow agents and train agents, because that's what you love to do. And that's what we need it so badly in this industry, people that really want to give and share, and you will be financially compensated for it. And you don't have to go out of business, and you will be able to take care of your family. Wouldn't that make sense? And he was like, yes. It'd be like a dream come true.
It's a no-brainer. But you're right. I mean, this is the model of the future. I mean, I don't see how it doesn't make sense for any other brokerages or just any other agents to not go into this type of model. Not saying trying to push people onto our company, but I'm just saying, just saying that the model itself, it doesn't make sense not to be in, especially if you're thinking about being in this industry for the long run, right? If you want to be in the industry for 5 years, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, it just doesn't make sense to be in a position to where agents are going to naturally be attracted and ask you about. I mean, I've been in the industry for 10 years, right?
Yeah.
And throughout my tenure in the industry, 30, maybe 40, maybe 50 agents have joined the industry because of me, or, my conversations with them and that kind of thing. And they've gone out to excel. They've gone out to manage companies or open up their own offices and brokerage and having big teams. Like, imagine if I started with that type of model back then.
Yeah.
What I mean? It's just insane. So, I think I just saw a video of Eddie. Someone just posted that he was talking about the idea of you joining real estate and then someone asking you about joining real estate too. And then, like, it doesn't make sense not to be compensated for that in some way, shape, or form. If they're and then I don't know that, but if you take them under as a mentor and you show them the ropes and you want them to succeed, like, yeah, sure, it just makes sense.
So now that you've kind of reformed your vision, I'm guessing, because you've let go of that opening your own brokerage thing, right? Are you now what is like the next 5, 10, 20 years? What does that look like for you?
Well, one of the things that I found fulfilling, towards, I guess, these years in my career is the ability to kind of share my experiences with other agents, to kind of show them the ropes. Back, I didn't touch on this, but when I was younger, one of my biggest inspirations in life was my 5th grade teacher. He changed my life. It wasn't for him. Who knows where it would have been, but he definitely changed the direction of my life. Where I grew up, kind of impoverished, not in a great neighborhood, surrounded by bad influences and all that stuff. But my 5th grade teacher changed the direction, changed that path.
How so?
Well, he was a very caring individual. He was an ex-military vet that became a fifth grade teacher. He was my basketball coach, but he cared for all of the students. Like he legitimately cared. He just told you to your face, don't be stupid. Don't do anything stupid. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do, you know, and then growing up kind of where I grew up, your parents are always working and you're kind of just out hanging out, getting yourself into trouble, hanging out with the wrong people. And yeah, where I grew up, it wasn't the greatest part of the city. You know, I saw some things. I saw some things.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
so, you know, at an early age, I experienced a lot of crazy stuff in regard to like, you know, how I grew up. But my fifth grade teacher kind of changed that direction for me. If it wasn't for him, who knows what path I would have walked. It wouldn't have been this one. I'll tell you that. So with that, I've always kind of felt like, okay, maybe I can kind of help inspire and change people's lives too.
Yeah.
And I kind of I did that even at an early age with my close friends, some of them that were walking in the wrong direction. I tugged them over like, hey, stay in line, come this way, don't do that. You don't need to go hang out with those guys today. Like I would do that 7th, 8th grade. And I like to say too that, you know, if I hadn't done that to them, then they would have been somewhere else. But, you know, thankfully, you know, I was able to help them out in that way. So I kind of always carried that with me to where one, I was like, man, maybe I want to be a teacher. So that way I can impact kids' lives like that, the way my 5th grade teacher did that. So that's always been in there. But I mean, being a teacher wasn't in the cards for me. You know, fast forward to today, I still kind of have that mentorship, that caring feeling in me to where I care about people and how they are and where they go in life. And I want to position them to succeed and position them to do great things. I've had friends that, you know, were working some jobs that were getting them nowhere. And I'm like, hey, maybe you can position what you already do for a living and tie it into what I do. Maybe I can provide you business and we can align and so on. And I've done that for friends to where, you know, plumbing, I got a buddy that was a plumber. I'm like, hey, you know, maybe line up, start your own company, get your own LLC. And maybe I can start providing you leads from any clients or anything within our office or that.
For sure.
I did that with a buddy of mine that's now a very successful inspector, one of the really good partners of Realty of Chicago. Now he's been a big partner for them for years. And he's excelling, you know, he's doing something he never thought he would do, but let alone own a business, right? He didn't think he was gonna, but he's excelling. He's hired like 2 other people and he's doing great. So I like to kind of point people in the right direction. So now everything back here, full circle, I'm kind of back in that same position to where now I can get that fulfillment where I can kind of point people in the right direction, mentor them, educate them in the real estate and watch them succeed, watch them prosper. And that does it for me, you know, that does it.
It's crazy that you talk about your 5th grade teacher, because I believe that when you go from like 6th grade is can be such a turning point, because you're starting, like in most states, you're going into junior high or middle school. And a lot of times that's where things go, you know, north or south, like you're either going up or down a lot of times, depending on who you become friends with, who you run with. So for you, looking back now, what kept you like on the right track? Because that 5th grade teacher wasn't with you, I would imagine, like continuously. Like you then went into 6th, 7th, 8th grade where things can go bad in an area maybe that wasn't all that great. What kept you doing the right thing?
Yeah, well, he opened my eyes, that's for sure. But being the eldest of my siblings, like that kind of positioned me to just want to do good for them, or just want to walk the right path, or set the path, and be like, hey, you don't have to go this way. You know, I can try to set the path for you. But I saw some things too as a young age. You know, some things that some kids shouldn't experience, like shootings and violence and that kind of stuff. So we experienced that at an early age to where he helped open our eyes. That's for sure, opened my eyes.
And as the older of your siblings, were you successful in keeping them on the right path?
Yeah, for sure. So my brother right now, he's in the process of starting a roofing company. I'm actually trying to talk him to come to Houston. He
should.
Yeah, he lives in Cincinnati. He lives in Cincinnati and he's in the process of starting a roofing company. I'm like, hey man, you'll do really great if you start one over here.
For sure, we can help.
I know some people.
Yeah.
Know? So like just with that. And then my sister just finished college, so she's doing really well. And my other sister too, like they're doing great. Like, you know, she's 3 beautiful nieces.
Oh.
So they're doing great. Yeah.
So when you look at like your life choices and patterns and projections and and I tell people this when I talk to them about real estate, it's like so many people get in the industry, but they really don't have a clear path of what next 10, 20, like, how long are you going to do this? Like, real estate is a career. It isn't something you're like, oh, I'm going to do this for a couple of years. No, if this is what you're going to do, it should be you until you die. Like, we can do real estate forever. However, I wouldn't say, well, when you're 60 and 70 and 80, do you want to be out there on listing appointments, or have to go on listing appointments and have to go show property? And unfortunately, there are a lot of elder people and older people that have to do that because no one ever set them up for success and how to create wealth through real estate and how to invest. And most real estate agents are spenders and they don't save. And because they live on that roller coaster pattern, they're enabled to put things away for the future. I think with you and all that you've experienced, like, and especially being blessed to be side by side with Eddie, who clearly has that path mapped out, you know, you're in a position, to do more and mentor people.
No, yeah, for sure. So, again, with Eddie, he's probably one of the, you have 3 to 5 most influential people in your life. He's one of them. My 5th grade teacher is another one. My mom, obviously, but no, yeah, it's a different model. And the way it's built is for longevity for the most part. I guess they throw out legacy. They say legacy, right?
Yeah.
Where are you going to be when you're 85? If you're a 30-year real estate veteran that's not in this model, I mean, it's tough to kind of build something unless you're investing and all that kind of stuff. So with this model, I mean, it's built for longevity and legacy for sure. And, like I mentioned, if I would have been in this model 10 years ago, I would have been retired right now.
Isn't that crazy though? I read something last night even where people, because the cloud-based model is the way of the future, and people are there's naysayers in all things. And then there's people that are realists. And, at the end of the day, I can't stress the importance of who you partner with matters, because there's so many people out there that aren't going to give you that positive influence. They're not real supporters of you. They secretly hope you don't even succeed. And then when you do start succeeding, they do anything but try to help you. They close doors and they're not there to be your biggest fan. And I think that's one of the coolest things that Realty of America, we are brand new. And so if you guys don't know, we're both with Realty of America. That's how I met James. And it's it's a brand new company that's growing faster than any other company with the right people, like you just said, people that are side by side you collaborating.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And I'm glad you're touching on that, because that is how we met. And I'm super stoked that I've had a chance to meet you, because how else would we have crossed paths? But, as far as collaboration, what you're doing with Thrive, the event that you just had was one of the best real estate events I've gone to in a while. Maybe it's up there, top 3, for sure.
Thank you.
It was amazing. And it's where else are you going to get that type of environment? Where else are you going to get that type of collaboration where you're putting all your effort, putting all your energy, and just pouring it all into everyone else? And they're just, grateful to be there. I'm grateful to be there. I was grateful to be there, and I'm grateful to be here.
I'm glad that you're here too. I think it's super cool that we met. What does the future hold for you, James? What are you thinking about building?
Well, with Realty of America, I want to help the company grow. I see the vision, and I know who's behind the company, so I want to be a part of that. I want to help grow. I'm a really big fan of legacy. So I have a 17-year-old son. He lives in Chicago. I frequent to Chicago about once a month to go visit with him throughout the weekend. He's too busy for me because he's got school and a girlfriend. Weekends I like it.
For sure.
I'm grateful for that, but we communicate, we FaceTime, we talk, pretty regularly, almost every day. I'm actually in the process of hiring him to help me out with some marketing stuff. So that's in the works. But, in regard to my son, he's my why. He is my ultimate why, right? You need to have a why as to why you put all this effort into what it is that we do. But he is my ultimate why. And the company, the brokerage, has allowed me the opportunity to provide my why a future that's going to go beyond me, a future that's going to literally be the legacy. I'm building something that I can leave back for him, and I'm able to do that with this real estate company that I wouldn't be able to do with any other company or model that's existent right now.
Do you think he'll get into real estate?
Well, he's Not maybe, I don't know. So he's very book smart. Thankfully, he's just he's into his studies. He's book smart, and he wants to go to university. He wants to go to college. So if that's the path he wants to walk, I'm behind it. He actually visited from Chicago Thanksgiving week here in Houston. So he came down, and I asked him like, "Hey, it's gonna be your first time here in Houston. Like, is there anything you want to do? Anything you want to like? Anything that you've looked up?" And he's like, "I want to tour Rice University. I want to tour the campus." I'm like, "Awesome! That's great. Let's do it."
Yes.
And then he's like, "FY, it's like $100K a year." I'm like, "Great."
Are you sure?
Well, I have to work a little harder, but hey, if this is the path you want to walk, I'm behind you.
Yes.
So, he wants to go to university, he wants to go to school and all that. So I'm all for it. But if that doesn't line up, then he'll get whatever he needs from life, from his experience in school. And he'll always have this opportunity, on the back burner in case he ever wants to be an entrepreneur.
When you look at like the future of real estate, none of us are promised tomorrow, number one, but ever since COVID, like the real estate industry, every year we get blindsided by something, or something changes like drastically in our industry where it's forever changed. Things are going to be different. When I look at it, like I am wildly blessed to thankfully get involved with the companies that I get involved in. And every time it's been, an upgrade in my opinion, and to get where I'm supposed to be, because like Ryan Serhant always says, and I tell everybody this, I'm like, Ryan Serhant says you have to be real estate and something. Like you can't just be known for real estate. And I'm like, and it took me a long time to figure out what is my and something. Because I don't have a lot of hobbies, because I work like all the time, because that's my hobby. I love to do it. And I read and I work out, and that's pretty much my life, and my family, of course. But I was like, what is the one thing that I want to do into the world? It's to bring hope. Like I want to bring hope to the world, because I didn't have anyone helping me when I was trying to get into real estate, and went through a divorce and had littles. And it's like, man, it was freaking hard, and no one ever said, oh, here's a lead or call this person. I wish I would have had an Eddie Garcia to work side by side with and learn, oh my gosh, the things I could have done so much faster, but I didn't. And so it's like, there's other people out there like me that didn't and don't. And it's like, I want to bring hope, because if I can do it, so can anyone. So you can do it, so can anyone. And we're out there now, like to be that person, to give hope, to teach people, to show people, because real estate, yes, it's hard, but it's really the self-discipline and the consistent daily freaking habits that will get you to your level of success, whatever that may be.
Yeah, building those habits, building the systems, the routines.
Yes.
Like even now, like I'm trying to reestablish my routine. I'm waking up, like, and starting my routine, it starts with waking up, right?
Yep.
What time are you going to wake up? So what time do you wake up, Trisha?
Yeah, well, it's crazy. So I'm testing a new thing. So I get up at 4, but I'm testing a new thing because I want to launch something, and I'm going to launch this other project in March, which may require I have to get up at 3:30. And so I'm testing it. It's like, so today was 3:40. So it was like, am I happy getting up at 3:30? Am I going to be okay?
I'm working my way to 5 a.m. So so I get up at 6 without an alarm or anything. I wake up not groggy or anything. I wake up at 6 in the morning almost every day. And I'm like, okay, I actually had dinner with some friends from Chicago when I was out there, and they have a 5 a.m. club, and they hold each other accountable. They call each other on FaceTime at 5 o'clock in the morning. There's a big group of them, and I'm like, man, I want to be a part of that. He's like, okay. He's like, okay, well, then I'm going to call you tomorrow. I'm like, yeah, well, I didn't answer. I woke up at like 5:45. I missed it, but I'm working my way to be able to take that phone call. So it helps to have people help you and hold you accountable. But 5 a.m. is my goal. And then once I get that 5 a.m. routine, then that's when my day starts. I'm able to knock out some things at home. I get my workout in. I do my affirmations, and then just get the day started and start doing my clerical work. So that way by 10 o'clock, I'm done with everything and ready to really take on the day.
How important do you think it is for, and I was listening to a podcast this morning too, where it talked about daily structure and having that same thing. And unfortunately, most real estate agents get reactive and they may have something on their calendar to help them grow their business, but a phone call comes in or they see something on social media and then they're down that rabbit hole and completely off their schedule. How important do you think that schedule is?
It's super important. It's one of the things that I learned first early on in the real estate career is to kind of build your morning and build it for success.
Yep.
Somebody David Dominguez always likes to say, win the morning, win the day. So that's pretty much if you structure your day that way, where you time block and set aside times to do this, that, and the other, and it's implemented every day, and that's your routine, then that's where success is going to start coming from.
And with you building and grooming agents and helping agents succeed and set up themselves for success, how involved in their day are you?
Every day. I call them every day, talk to them every day. As a matter of fact, we're setting up we're doing a Zoom call every morning just to kind of go over our database, go over our pipeline for 1 hour, and then, just kind of talk about what's going on in their day and what they can do to improve, and just throwing ideas out there collectively every morning. Yeah. So every morning before 10 o'clock, we knock it out from 9 to 10. They're actually holding the meeting right now without me because I'm on the call, or they should be watching. Hopefully, they better be watching.
Let's hope so. But guess what? In my opinion, I bet you got that from Eddie, didn't you?
Yeah, I got that from the culture because everyone holds each other accountable. And one of my memories would be like, hey, I'm outside. I'm like, what? You're outside?
Seriously?
Yeah.
That's insane. That's hilarious.
Yeah, he's like, I'm picking you up. I'm outside. I'm like, oh my God. All right, I'll be around. Give me 10 minutes.
And for you guys that don't know Eddie, you probably are like, oh, that can't be. Who does that? He's like that. Like he just shows up. Like if he texts you like, hey, can we schedule a call? And instead of scheduling a call, he just calls. Like, I'm trying to schedule. Why are you calling right now? I can't take it. But he just makes it happen like right then. Yeah. I think you're so blessed, James, to have had that. Like, I've never heard of another broker that calls people and wakes them up. I've never heard of another broker that shows up at people's houses and picks them up, like, to make sure they're successful. Like, what would you have done? Have you thought about that? Like, where would you be and what would you have accomplished had you not had that culture and that collaboration?
Well, I wouldn't be in real estate, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I would have probably explored another company, stayed in the corporate world. Like I was working with the industrial supply industry. And who knows, I probably would have had more grays and just.
Yeah. And you could have been unhappy.
Yeah, I definitely don't think I'd be where I'm at now. And I'm blessed to be here for sure.
I love it. And I love that you're paying it forward and doing it for other people, because it's such a need. When you look at the failure rate in the real estate industry, it's so high, but it doesn't have to be. Like, we can change this.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Like, in my short experience here, just in my experience in real estate in general, my short experience here in Houston, I've asked myself, like, how did you get licensed to a lot of agents? Like, how are they licensing these people? Like, what is, like, just the way they present themselves. I've had, agents kind of show up like in joggers. I'm like, what are you doing? And then the correspondence too isn't up to par. It's like, whoa, wow, like, what are you doing? Like, who's your, like, how did you get licensed? Yes. It just doesn't make any sense. Like the level, the standard of real estate, I hate to say it, but I feel like it's not as high as it should be, right? Or as it used to be. And I feel like now is the time to reincorporate that standard, especially.
I think it's super cool. Like, you talked about working at the tuxedo place and how that kind of like established the way you wanted to look. You wanted to dress sharp. You always wanted to look good. I think that's super awesome because, again, people do they're sloppy, they're frumpy. It's like, that's not a good first impression. You look like crap. Did you, in all of your real estate career, have you always dressed for success?
Oh man, yeah. So it's funny that you asked that, because if you worked at Realty Chicago, one of the rules was you got to show up in a suit and tie.
Really?
Yeah, Eddie, if you didn't show up with in a jacket or button up, then what are you doing? Get out of here.
That's hilarious.
It was instilled. It's still instilled that you got to show up. You got to present yourself. The first impression is the only impression. So
it is.
why not make it count, right? So if you're going to show up as a professional, and it's out of respect for the client too. You want to show up as a professional. You know, you want to present yourself as a professional, show up as a professional out of respect for that client. And
don't you find that you feel better? Yeah. And don't you find that you feel better too, like when you're dressed nice?
Yeah, 100%. You feel good. You're dressed for success. That's literally what it is. You dress for success. So it's instilled in me, and I position it to all the agents like, hey, dress to impress, dress for success. You know, the perception on how people perceive you on how you dress is there, you know, and the impression that you make is there. So make it a good one, make it a lasting impression, so that way you already start off at a high level.
Going from starting in the tuxedo company to Circuit City and AT&T or Verizon, and then into real estate, any regrets in how you did things? Anything you would have done differently?
No regrets as far as learning the path I wanted to walk. Like, there's no regrets on kind of figuring life out as I went, but I always knew that I always wanted to scale and excel. So no regrets in that aspect. But I would say my real only regret would be, I can tie it into the real estate industry, is not jumping into the real estate opportunity when Eddie presented it the first time. And it took me 2 years to realize that this is where I needed to be. That was probably I should have just jumped on it, but I didn't do it. Hey, you know, but I'm here now. So
you're here now. And then moving forward, I always like, you know, because again, you're super successful in real estate. You've come like side by side working with Eddie and growing that company. And now you're here in Houston with us, which I'm super thankful for. And we're going to like take over Texas and all nations. What is something that you, and especially coming out of 2024, where it was a really hard year for a lot of people, what are you telling your agents they need to be focusing on and some of those daily disciplines to be successful in 25?
Well, there's this thing. I don't know where it came from, or if I came up with it, but it's the 3 P's: be present, be purposeful, and be prosperous. And I have that written down on my wall, and that says a lot. You have to be present. You have to show up.
Yeah,
like, you have to show up day in, day out. You have to show up, be present. Now it can be in a physical form or be on social. I mean, now in the digital age, show up, but you have to show up. Be purposeful. Have some, like, have that meaning has to come from within. You have to do everything with a purpose, and it has to be, you're fully intentional. And then with that, then prosperity will follow. So that's pretty much what I'm instilling. And then there's another thing that I have written down on my wall. So I have a wall here, and I have a lot of my affirmations and everything that I look at. So sometimes, depending on how my day's going, I just, take a little look back. And I remind myself, gratitude, appreciation, respect, sympathy, and grace. I live by those. Those are my values, right? And then I have win the morning, win the day. But one of the things that really helps me get through my day, and I tell this to the agents on how their approach should be with clients, whether they're warm leads, cold leads, Zillow leads, referrals, that kind of thing. Just, you have to find something that's going to center you. And I tell them, this is what I say. And again, I don't know where this came from. I may have made this up, but I say it every day. Every interaction is an opportunity to be of service. And if you live by that, then you're gonna be gracious or grateful for that opportunity. So every interaction is an opportunity to be of service. And that's how I live my day.
I love that. Yeah. You're just out there trying to make a difference every day and be the best version of you. And impact others, right?
That's right.
I love it. As we're coming up on the hour, you guys, James, you're amazing. I love your story. I love everything that you shared. And it's like, I think you being here in Houston, I'm grateful that you're here. I'm grateful that I met you, and grateful that we're in the same company together. So much gratitude here. Final thoughts about 2025. James, what you think?
2025 is going to be great. Statistically speaking, I think it's going to be one of the best years that real estate has seen in a long time. So prepare for that, grab it, ride that wave, go it up, and it's going to be great. It's going to be a wonderful year. And I'm just excited that you had me on the show. I'm excited to meet you. I'm excited to build with you. I'm looking forward to more of your events. So I'm just waiting for that. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, on that note, you guys, so more events are coming. So next week we do this thing called Thrive Week. And it's, if you guys haven't been to it, it's Paul and I created it. And it's basically like a boot camp style. And so we will launch Realty of America's first Thrive Week at our central hub. James mentioned to you that we have hubs, and they are for collaboration, for people to come together and to learn and train and work and prosper, be prosperous, like he said. So we have limited seats on this one. It is a free event. It is only for Realty of America agents because we're in a smaller space right now. Our next one will be in a much larger, and we may open it up to other agents, but our goal is to help everybody thrive in 25. So it's going to be Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Watch for the Eventbrite and all over Facebook. And you're going to have to register because, again, seating is very limited, but we're going to teach you everything from working with sellers, buyers, open houses, goal setting, AI, you name it. You're going to learn it all about real estate. So send people there, James. Come, James.
Oh, you cut off. I can't hear your audio.
Uh-oh. Is it there? Did it disappear? Hopefully not. Did my audio cut off? Can you hear me? Let's hope so. I can hear you.
Sorry, I can't hear you anymore. The audio went away.
That's okay. Hopefully it's not. That's okay. We're going to end it, you guys. We're at the hour. So y'all have a fantastic day. Make sure and come and see us at Thrive Week next week. And we will see you guys later.